You can hear me, right? You look like you can hear me. Yeah, good. Vanchakapatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangaiti Giring Kripatamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam. So we are going to continue discussing quotes from Srila Prabhupada about prayer. And there's a mood in prayer we've been discussing, that we are helpless and we need help. And that is also a definition of humility. So prayer, why would you need to pray if you can do everything on your own? But we pray because we realize we can't do everything on our own and we need help. And so prayer is a manifestation of humility, or it's meant to be a manifestation of humility. If it's not, then we're not praying properly. Because that's the mood. I'm helpless, I'm coming to you because I need help. That's the mood. Okay, so what do I need help with? Well, I need help with coming closer to you. And I need help with the project that I've undertaken. By becoming a devotee, we're undertaking a project. What is that project? Getting out of the material world, making this our last life. If not the last life, one of the last lives, but hopefully the last life. That's the project we've undertaken by becoming devotees. And so we're going to need help with that project. And if that's not the project you've undertaken, then why would you need help? You would only need help. Well, you would only need material help. So then your prayers would only be material prayers. Help Krishna, to ask Krishna to help you make your stay in the material world better, or perhaps even longer. So the mood of a devotee's prayers is that I've taken up this project to get out of the material world, and I need your help. You may have heard that Prabhupada once said famously that even if you have a desire for one sweet ball, you'll have to come back. Have you heard that before? It's kind of scary. Because sometimes you can't take everything Prabhupada says at face value. It's symbolizing an idea that a devotee doesn't want to remain in the material world. So if there's anything in this material world that's attractive to you, that would keep, there are things in the material world attractive to us, but would those things keep you in the material world? Like, are you willing to come back and take another birth to get that sweet ball? Probably not. I hope not. I don't think so, right? But I like that sweet ball and I eat it every day, but I don't like it enough that I can't give up the idea of going back to Godhead. I like the idea of going back to Godhead. So if as devotees we're going to pray properly, then the mood has to be, my project is to go back to Godhead. My project is this should be my last life. And in that mood, I can properly pray for everything that's going to help me achieve that. And if I'm not ready, if I think this is, well, I don't know, I have to think about it, maybe my last life. What if I get to the spiritual world and I don't like it and I can't leave? Then when I'm in it for eternity, I have to serve Krishna. I don't know about that. I want to be served and things like that. Then obviously, how can you pray? But if perchance you were in that mood, then the right thing to do is pray to get out of that mood and get in the right mood. Krishna, help me want only you, and help me want to go back to Godhead, like that. So theoretically, when we become devotees, we're signing up for pure devotional service, even though we're not pure. That's the goal. And we're signing up to live our life in a way that gradually we, be, we can become Krishna conscious and eventually become detached enough from everything material that all we want is Krishna and all we want is to go back to Godhead. So when you look at this world, and there's nothing in this world that would attract, not that there's nothing in this world that's not attractive. It's Krishna's energy, so it's very attractive. So it being attractive and it attracting you are two different things, right? Just like you can see, the other day we were driving down the street in Los Angeles and we saw a Bentley. Bentley's a very expensive car. I don't know what it costs. Chaitanya Dasi, you can Google the cost of a new Bentley. And so I saw a Bentley. It's rare. You might see one once in a while. Maybe you've never seen one in your entire life. So it was kind of rare. And obviously cars costing as much as houses, they're quite special. So I can look at the car and I can appreciate it. That's a very nice car. It doesn't mean I want it, right? If I had a Bentley, I'd be having to work 24 hours a day to pay for it. So, and obviously it's not necessary. So if we can look at this world and say, yeah, this world is attractive. This is beautiful oceans, beautiful mountains, talented people, beautiful people. It's all beautiful because it comes from Krishna and it's Krishna's energy. And whatever Krishna creates is beautiful, right? Until we mess it up. So it's not that being attracted to something means we're attached. There's two different things. I mean, just think about your life, things that you have noticed that are attractive. And if I said, do you want it? You would say, no, I don't want it. I just thought it was attractive. You want it? Oh, the sunset's beautiful. You want to sit there and look at it? 200,000 US dollars and above. Okay, yeah. You could get a small house in America for that price. And a big house in India, I think. Maybe not anymore. In a village, maybe, yeah. Oh, very big house in a village, yeah. So, I mean, if you think about your own life, you'll think, there are many things that I can appreciate are beautiful, but I don't want them. Like maybe it's an instrument and well, this instrument it's really beautiful the way it's made. Sometimes they make guitars with ivory and, but you don't even play guitar. So you want the guitar? No, I don't play it. I was just noticing it was made well. It's attractive. So there's a difference between appreciating the beauty of something and being attached to it in a way that you'd want to come back to the material world and have it and enjoy it. And so you may know the story. It's quite a common story. And it makes this point well. The devotees were at the beach, and a devotee was appreciating the sunset. It was very beautiful. So Prabhupada was understanding that this devotee was not appreciating the sunset as a beautiful creation of Krishna, but enjoying seeing the sun. In other words, his eyes were enjoying the beauty of the sun. You understand the difference? I see the sun and I think, wow, this is one of Krishna's eyes. This is beautiful, Krishna's creation. But I'm not seeing it in a way that, oh, I have to see the sun. It's so beautiful and it's so gratifying. And like tourists go, to see beautiful places. It's so beautiful. I want to enjoy it. So Prabhupada saw that actually the mood of this devotee was that he was enjoying seeing this rather than seeing this as Krishna's beauty and appreciating Krishna. And he said, if you think this sunset is beautiful, I forget exactly how he said it, but the point was that if you enjoy this sunset, then you'll have to remain in the material world to enjoy this sunset and all the other things of this world. So there's a difference between appreciating and enjoying. So a sign of health or advancement in Krishna consciousness is I look at this world and I think, I feel that I was born to get out of this world. That's my ultimate purpose was not to be part of it and stay in it and contribute to it, but to get out of it. And so that's what it means to be a devotee. Not that we don't contribute, but our consciousness is that this world is imperfect. We cannot make it perfect. And there's nothing in this world, even though it's beautiful and attractive, that is worth enjoying at the cost of not going back to Godhead. That's the idea. Correct? And so that's if we have that mood, then when we pray, that mood underscores whatever else we're praying for, because whatever else we're praying for is to help us become more detached from everything not related to Krishna and be in the conscious and connect with Krishna, and that's what's important. Okay. If you have $200,000, you can buy a Bentley, but I don't recommend it. That's a lot of Bhagavad Gitas you could distribute. That's like 40,000 Bhagavad Gitas. That would be better. Okay, so can you bring up the next quote, Chaitanya Dasi? Okay. If you go to the chat, you can see the next quote. Rather, this is the title. I think I may have titled this. I'm not sure. And doesn't say where this is from. Rather than ask the Lord for anything, the devotee depends on Krishna's decision to fulfill or not fulfill his desires. In all circumstances, we must take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and depend completely on his decision. Man proposes, God disposes. The fulfillment of desires should be entrusted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we depend on the choice of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will receive benedictions in greater opulence than we desire. The example is Kardama, who wanted a wife and not a queen. So Kardama asked for a wife, he got a queen. He got more than he asked, more than he bargained for. Okay, Krishna, what do you want? This is what I believe I need, and now it's in your hands. So that is, the idea is that a devotee doesn't want to tell Krishna specifically, Krishna, I need this make, this model, this year, this color, this size, this shape. Not so like, but Krishna, I'm praying for something that I think would help my bhakti. Of course, specifically, if you need a camera for your service, yeah, you have an idea of the make and model. But the idea is, as we know, the idea is that our choices have not, if statistically we did some research and look at all the choices we make and how those choices worked out, we could say, and this research has been done, we're not very good at understanding what will make us happy. We're actually quite bad at it. And if you look at your life and all the choices you made of things you thought would make you happy, and how many actually made you happy and how many didn't, you see you're not batting 100. For those who are not Americans, batting 100 means, and it's a baseball term, where every time you hit the ball, nobody catches it. And you get to the base. So We're definitely not batting 100, and some of us are batting 0. So the mood of the devotee is, okay, Krishna, help me, um, as you see fit. Um, so that's and what's beautiful about this, and maybe you don't understand this, or maybe you understand it, but you have difficulty believing it, that Krishna wants to bless us. For sure, he wants to bless us. But then you think, well, if he wants to bless me, and I've been waiting for that princess. Where is she? Well, maybe you're not Kardama. That could be part of the problem, right? Or where's my Kardama? Well, maybe you're not Devahuti. You're not up there yet. But we should never think that Krishna doesn't want to bless his devotees. Even materially, he wants to bless his devotees, but he can't bless a devotee materially by giving them anything which would not be good for them. So when Kardama was married to Devahuti, if you study the Bhagavatam, that section, you won't see that that was a problem for Kardama at all. He marries a princess and he continues doing his austerity. Like nothing, he didn't get bewildered, and it was helpful for him, and she was helping him, so it was all good. So Krishna, knowing that, said, okay, we'll give you a princess. But what if Krishna gave the average Prabhu a princess? That might be the last day we see him. What happened to so-and-so? Oh, he married a princess. Well, what happened after that? We don't know. They're off in their villa in the Mediterranean. That was the last we've heard. We take certain things for granted, like we have a life and certain circumstances, but we think, well, wherever I go, whatever I do, I'll be the same person. It's not true. If we threw you in prison with a bunch of criminals, they would agitate you, and you might end up punching people. No, not me. I wouldn't be that way. Yeah, you don't know. If you lived in 40 in Germany, you may support Hitler. Not me, I wouldn't support him. Well, you would be one out of millions of people who didn't. Unlikely you wouldn't. So it's like if you married a princess, it's unlikely you'd survive, or a prince. So um, of course, Krishna knows better how we would survive. And so, our mood is, okay, Krishna, I think I need this and that. I'm praying, but I leave it up to you, because you know better than I do. So if we're praying for something, Krishna doesn't give it, maybe we're not qualified for it. I would say more than maybe. That's the reason. Because certainly Krishna can give it, right? Or maybe we're qualified for it, but it's not necessary. It's just going to be, a deviation, you know. So, okay, why should I give this to you? And there's another thing which is very interesting. If you study Prabhupada's what you could call political philosophy, Varnashram philosophy, social philosophy, Prabhupada very much wanted us to be separate from material society and live very simply and minimize our dependence. So you're thinking, oh, Krishna, I want a big house, I want a big car, I want a big this, a big that. Well, it's not what Prabhupada taught us, that we should want these things. We should want simple, 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 simple. So why isn't Krishna fulfilling my desire for big, big, big? Because it's not really what he wants from us. So that's also a consideration. Why am I praying for big, big, big? And Prabhupada saying small, small, small. Simple, 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 and I'm praying for complex. So that's also a consideration. Um, yeah. So it appears from this statement of Srila Prabhupada that he's talking about something, I don't want to say material, but something, for lack of a better word, material. It's not a prayer, Krishna, give me pure bhakti. Krishna, give me something that I need, like a wife or a husband. Okay. And then give me this one. This is his name, this is his address. Where Prabhupada's saying, you pray, Krishna, you do what is best for me. Whatever you decide is best, that's what you do. And Krishna will give you maybe even better than this one. But I want to go back to this other point. If we want Devahuti, we have to be like Kardama. And if we're wondering or getting mad at Krishna why he didn't give us a Devahuti or a Kardama, we might want to look at our qualifications. So, it's, as Prabhupada said, first deserve, then desire. Our prayers have to be somewhat in the ballpark of our qualifications. Krishna, make me successful in this way. And Krishna's laughing. He said, if you were successful like that, you'd be bewildered. Or if I gave you all this money, you'd spend it in one day and be poor the next day. So as we read, I think maybe Friday or Wednesday, Krishna, that famous verse, Krishna, I may be a fool to ask for something that's not good for me, but Krishna says, I'm not a fool. So you ask for something that's not good for you, but I'm not going to give it to you. So, and when we're qualified, the point Prabhupada is making here is he'll give us more than we ask for. You just leave it up to him. He knows how to take care of his devotees. And so unfortunately, I don't know where this purport is. And it may even be a commentary on Bhagavatam that's not in Prabhupada's books, but there is a purport by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which explains, and I think this is easy and natural to understand, that Krishna wants to satisfy his devotees. After all, his devotees are serving him, making sacrifice for him. So is Krishna ungrateful? Of course not. Where does our desire to give back come from? Where does our desire to want to repay someone who helps us? Where does that come from? Well, it comes from Krishna. So we can't say Krishna doesn't feel that way and Krishna's not indebted to the services devotees are doing and have done. And we can't say Krishna is not willing to give, or doesn't want to give, or doesn't care about giving. No, just like we care, we like to give gifts, isn't it? Don't you like to give gifts? It's their birthday or their, baby shower or whatever. Someone has let you stay at their house, you want to give a gift. That's natural, right? Isn't it? So Krishna's, where did you get that propensity? You got it from Krishna. So he actually wants to bless us. He wants to make our life easy and comfortable. And then you say, my life is uncomfortable and difficult. There seems to be some problem here. Yeah, well, maybe that's what we need now. And if Krishna makes it difficult and uncomfortable, maybe that's what we need now. And maybe we just haven't got the message. And so Krishna keeps making it uncomfortable and difficult till we get the message, till we respond properly. And when we do, then Krishna says, okay, I want to, your cup is bigger, you can hold more, you've made a bigger cup, let me fill it. Yeah. And we see that. Krishna somehow takes care of all of us somewhere or another. We have a question. If you're not really serving Krishna much, will Krishna still want to help us or give to us? He feels indebted to us, but for what? If I'm not doing anything. All right, I'll rephrase that question. Radha Vinod, if you're not serving someone much, but that person would like to help you or give you something and feels indebted to you, but for what would he be indebted to if I'm not doing anything for him? The answer would be nothing. How could he be indebted if you're not? If you've not, you have to be something to be indebted to that you're doing. Yeyatamam prapadyante. So Krishna, it's not fair if you do nothing and Krishna gives you a kardama and I do everything and I don't get a devahuti. Then we're going to have a revolution protest march, against the city hall of Vaikuntha. It's not fair, I serve you, you don't give me anything. And you give everything to Radha Vinod, and she's just sitting around, not even thinking of you. It's not fair. Yeah, so of course Krishna could do anything any way he likes, and then we also have karma that is influencing, what's happening in our life. It's not completely dissolved, in one day. But think of Krishna as a person and think of Krishna responding as any person would respond. Now, as we've talked in the self-care course, you're eating, you're getting sunshine, you're getting air, you're getting all these things. So that is Krishna's, taking care of you, certainly. But maybe not giving you everything that you want because it's like, what have you done to deserve it? So karmically you'll get so many things, but devotionally, Krishna will reciprocate according to how you're feeling towards him and serving him and praying. And we also said many times, it's awkward to pray for something that you're not qualified for. It's like you're in a company and you're asking for a raise, and there's absolutely no reason. You haven't done anything to deserve it. So it's awkward to ask if you're not qualified for the raise, isn't it? You hired me at this price and I'm doing exactly the same thing you hired me for. And so now you should give double my salary. Should give me the salary of the CEO. Like, why should I give you the salary of the CEO? You're just cleaning the toilets, When you become qualified like the CEO, yeah, then I can give it to you. So it's awkward. It's awkward to pray for something, isn't it? When you're not qualified for it. So that's, so then you'll say, well, does that mean I shouldn't pray? It means pray for the qualification, pray for the desire, pray for the qualification that I could pray for this. That's a nice prayer, isn't it? Okay, I'm not qualified to pray for a kardama or a devahuti. Let me pray for the qualification to be able to pray. Now let me pray to understand what are the qualifications. Let me pray to learn, to understand why I'm not getting what I'm asking for. And that would be good. Okay. So we have another question. You mentioned that we have to act small. It seems to me that at the same time, Prabhupada wants us to think big and do big things. How do we reconcile? Did I say act small? Or I meant, I'm not sure. What did I say? You have to tell me. I have to interpret what you mean, and I don't think this is what you mean, but until you write more, I'll answer. You can't achieve bigger things than you are big. You can't achieve bigger things than you are you can't achieve bigger things than you are are qualify yourself to achieve. So so yes, Prabhupada wants us to spread Krishna consciousness. But if you are not Krishna conscious, how would you do that? So the point I was making, maybe you took it another way, is that you can't pray for something that you're not trying to qualify yourself for. But you can pray for the qualification so that you can pray for it. So if you want to do something big and you're not big, you have to pray to become qualified to do something big, right? And that was stated. I was stating that to help us understand why sometimes our prayers go unanswered. Can you hold on a second? I just have to close the door. The point is, sometimes devotees can lose faith in Krishna because they're praying for something and it's not coming, but they're praying for something they're not really capable of, or they're praying for something that if they got would not be good for them. And so Krishna's, on both cases, he's sent by, like I said many times, Krishna's answering all my prayers. He's not giving me anything I asked for. But there is an answer to that. Like, why are you not giving me this? Well, think about why. Krishna wants you to understand why. Are you not qualified? Are you praying for the wrong thing? Is this, do you need to be, do you need to be, are you not understanding why I'm not giving it to you and you keep praying for it? So this is how we should think. I don't know if that answered the question, but that is an answer. And I think it's important. It's like if I want something and it's not happening and I don't understand why, then I'm going to keep doing the same thing and offering the same prayers and getting no reciprocation because I haven't stopped to understand or to think. Maybe there's a message, and maybe Krishna is reciprocating by not giving it, and there's a message there, and I didn't get the message. I don't understand it. Maybe my thinking is wrong. Maybe my attitude is wrong, which often is the case. On one hand, I could be having the exact wrong attitude, and the other hand, I'm expecting the salary of the CEO, but I'm cleaning the toilets. So I think a lot of times it's like that, and we don't think, well, maybe if I want to be CEO, I should quit the toilet job and ask, can I get trained for a better position? Maybe that's the message of not getting the raise. Maybe I have to qualify myself. So if you don't get the message and you keep praying in the same way and you think there's no reciprocation, you can lose faith. But the reciprocation is that Krishna didn't reciprocate because he wants you to consider why. Why does this always happen to this devotee? It never happens to me. Consider why. What is the service of that devotee? What is the attitude of that devotee? What is the quality of their bhakti? And generally you'll find there must be a difference, which is why they're getting reciprocation from Krishna that I'm not getting. It has to be, right? It's not like Krishna says, well, Pravanishta Bhakti, I don't like you, so no reciprocation for you. It doesn't matter what you do, I'm not going to give it to you because, you have the wrong color hair. It's not like that. Krishna's not going to do that. Krishna is waiting to give all of us mercy, but he's waiting for us to qualify for it. And I know that sounds weird, qualify for mercy, but it's true. Because if you don't qualify for mercy, then mercy would be arbitrary. And in one sense, mercy is arbitrary in that it's available to everyone, but not everybody takes it. But within the devotional realm, if Krishna's not giving mercy, then naturally we think, okay, what to do? There must be a message there. There must be something that I'm not understanding. That things are, they're going the same way every day, every year, all the time. There must be a reason. And if we don't stop and think about that, it's just going to repeat itself. And if you look at your life, there are many things in your life that repeat themselves, which is good if those are good things. And if they're bad things and they're repeating themselves, and it's like, hello, that's something you really need to look at. Like, why does this keep happening? It's not happening to the devotee next door. It's happening to me. Does Krishna not like me? Or is it some other reason? Do I have karma? Well, it could be a karmic thing. That's true. But, and maybe that is the answer. Well, it's just a karmic thing. I am the same as the devotee next door, but different things are happening to me. Okay, maybe it's karma. Maybe that's the answer. But maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the way I'm approaching Krishna consciousness. Maybe it's the way I'm dealing with myself, approaching myself. Maybe it's the way I approach other devotees. There may be something. And so if something is not going well, or if something is going terribly wrong, then shouldn't we want to question that? So I don't repeat whatever it is that's creating that. That seems obvious, doesn't it? So obvious, nobody does it. That's the problem. And then we might think, well, I'm just unfortunate. Krishna is not merciful to me. But as we said many, many times, if Krishna is going to be merciful to us, we have to, quote unquote, become qualified for that mercy. Because, it's like, okay, the mercy is there. Go to the office, fill out all the paperwork, and we'll see if you're qualified for it. And some people are qualified and some aren't. And if you are not qualified, then you're not going to get it. It's like, it's like the government giving welfare. Right? So it's the same thing. So we have a question. In our conditioned state of existence, we are always in fear. So how can our prayers be pure? Well, fear is an absence of seeing Krishna in everything. So if you're in fear, first thing is to pray to be able to see Krishna's hand in everything. Because that's all fear is. It's like I'm out of control and I can't control the situation. So I think Prahlad Maharaj is the best example, because if anything was out of control, it was Hiranyakashipu. And so Prahlad Maharaj could not control his father. And his father had power over everyone in the universe, not just Prahlad. So he was out of control. And so Prahlad saw Krishna behind everything, and therefore he wasn't afraid. So fear is the absence of seeing Krishna. I'm afraid this will happen or that will happen. Well, what about Krishna? Try to see Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller and you are a devotee. And whatever happens, if you are properly situated and do your best, then whatever happens, take that as Krishna's will. and therefore there's only mercy and lessons to learn. If things don't go the way you want them, then there's lessons. If things go the way you want them, then there's just appreciation and more facility for service. Mm. And if fear is there, I mean, one thing to understand about fear, most fears are illusory. They're just in your head. They don't actually exist. You know, if you're driving down an icy road at 120 miles an hour, yeah, that's a very objective reason to be afraid. Well, not you're driving, someone else is driving. If you're in a car with a 16-year-old driving down 100 miles down an icy road, yeah, well, that fear is like, that's realistic. But if you get on an airplane, you know, I'm afraid it's going to crash, I'm going to crash, you know, the number of crashes, that more people die in traffic accidents. You should be more afraid when you go in a car than an airplane, right? So that's not it's not objective reality. So a lot of our fears are like that. They're illusions in our head. I can't do that. I'm afraid I can't do that. How do you know? I just know. Have you tried it? No. I could never do that. I'd be so afraid. That's just a story in your head. So it's good to understand that most fears are stories we made up in our head. They're not real. I can't talk to that person. Why not? You ever talk to him? No, he looks mean. You know, he's not mean, but he looks mean. I can't talk to him. Ask for this. No, I can't ask. Why? He might get upset. No, how do you know? Maybe he'll give it to you. Oh, no, I can't ask. I'm afraid. These are all stories in our heads, isn't it? I mean, how do you know? How do you, well, you know, so when you finally ask, and he says, okay, no problem. You're like amazed. And then you hit yourself. Say, I was so stupid. I should have just asked. I could have asked a year ago, but I thought I wouldn't get it. Right? So, yeah, is that okay? But I would also say, you know, if there's fear, and we don't want fear in our prayers, so let's pray to overcome our fears. Pray, Krishna, please help me, give me the intelligence to deal with my fears. You know, because if you try to overcome your fears, you'll see that in most cases there's nothing to be afraid of, because you know, even if you try something and fail, in most cases it's no different than not trying, except that if you try, you could possibly succeed. If you don't try, you can't succeed. And so the consequence of trying, you know, say, what's if I try, but he could say no? Okay, that's true. But if you don't ask, then he said no, theoretically. It comes to the same thing. So you can look at these fears and think, well, yeah, that doesn't make sense. And I think the worst fear a devotee could have is the fear that they can't be Krishna conscious. Because that's like an offense to Guru and Krishna. Like, you can't make me Krishna conscious. I can never be Krishna. Well, if you follow the process, well, if you don't follow the process, yeah, you can't be. But if you do follow the process and you think you can't be Krishna conscious, then that's offensive. It's minimizing the process, isn't it? And I would say for most devotees that if they have this fear that they can't be Krishna conscious, it's because they're not following properly, or they have the wrong attitude, or something is wrong with their execution of devotional service, their way of thinking. Maybe they're making offenses. Something is wrong. Because if you do everything correctly, there's no reason to fear that you can't be Krishna conscious. On the contrary, you would be very confident that you can be. In your own humble way, you could be confident that the process works. So also, faith in Krishna's protection, faith in Krishna's maintenance. These things are part of the practice of bhakti. So you might say, well, I don't have faith. But that's not how a devotee, it's not something a devotee should say. Because it's like if you say that, you're saying, well, Krishna, I don't believe you. I know you say in the Gita, Ananyas Chintayanta Mam Ye Jana Pariupasate Tesham Nitya Bhuktanam Yoga Kshema Bahamyaham. I know you say that you'll maintain what I have and provide what I lack, but I don't believe you. So therefore, I have fear. How will I live? And my experience in life is that our faith produces consequences. So when we show Krishna we have faith, Krishna reciprocates with that faith. When we show Krishna we have fear, Krishna reciprocates with the fear. It's very interesting. You know, it's like saying, I can never do this. Then you try to do it and you fail. And you say, I told you I couldn't do it. Have you ever done that? You know, it's like, I want to prove to you I can't do it. So I'm going to make sure I fail. And you may not even be conscious that you're thinking that way, but you are. Or Krishna is going to reciprocate. Okay, you're certain you're going to fail. And Krishna says, okay, I will have to make certain you do fail because that's what you expect. And that's the kind of relationship you're creating with me. Whereas, why don't you all do an experiment this week and just put faith in Krishna without trying to control him? Just faith. Okay, as Prabhupada said in his purport. How you want to do it, Krishna, you do it. I have faith in your protection. I have faith in your maintenance. I have faith in your giving me ability to do my service. I have faith in you giving me intelligence, inspiration, guidance, ideas for spreading Krishna. I have all this faith. I have faith that things will work out well in the difficult situations I face. Why don't you do that and see what happens? And I can guarantee you 108% your week is going to be much different than if you don't normally think this way. Things will work better. Things will show up. And you'll be like, oh my God, literally, oh my God, Krishna is showing up because he's going to reciprocate with that faith. And if you run around with fear, that's what happens. He reciprocates with, hope this doesn't happen. Oh, and Krishna says, okay, we'll make sure that happens. The thing you don't want it to happen because you're expecting that. That's your fear. You don't believe that I will take care of this? Okay, I won't. Since you don't believe it, I have to reciprocate with your lack of faith, so I won't. And then it increases that lack of faith. Krishna doesn't love me. Not exactly. You don't believe he doesn't. You don't believe he loves you. And therefore, he's reciprocating with that. Interesting, isn't it? Don't you think that's interesting? Think about it. So, would you be willing to do an experiment this week? And just like, I'm not saying don't get out of bed and do nothing, but just expect Krishna's mercy. You know, we have this example of this bird. It's a thunderbird. In Sanskrit, it's called chikora. You know that example? The chikora bird? There could be water on the ground. It won't take water from the ground. It only takes it from the rain, even if it's thirsty, as far as I understand. Even if the bird is thirsty, the only place it will get water is from the sky. Put his head up and take water from the sky. And so that example is a devotee only looks to Krishna for mercy, not for any material arrangement. He only looks to Krishna for mercy. And that's where he gets his mercy. So, Krishna, I depend on you. I know that you're merciful. I depend on your help. I depend on your guidance. I depend on your maintenance, everything. And when I have this dependence, I can serve you. I can serve you as a devotee, because that's what it means to be a devotee. to depend on Krishna. I just want to serve you, please my Guru. I want to depend on you to make things work out, to take on that service that I'm afraid to take on, and so forth. So, is there a reason why we pray to Nityananda or Radharani to give us mercy? Because they give us more freely, yeah. Nityananda, both Radharani and Nityananda represent Guru Tattva, and the Guru's job is to give mercy, to represent Krishna's mercy even. And we can say the Guru is more merciful. So we say Radharani is more merciful than Krishna, and Nityananda is more merciful than Mahaprabhu. So, it's just that they are distributing Krishna's mercy, but Krishna is allowing them to be the ones who give it. So in that sense, we say they're more merciful, but that's Krishna's arrangement. So yeah, pray to those who can give the most mercy. Manindra Bishwas says, does Krishna respond to our prayers for giving someone good senses devotion? Yeah, definitely. I have a realization that I'd like to share with you. This was happening to me, I think, yesterday or the day before. Now, sometimes when we chant, unfortunately, we are not present to Krishna in his name because we're thinking of other things. And I always try to remind myself when I chant so that I, just like turn everything off. That's the best way to chant. I would rephrase that and say it's the only way to chant. So for me, I'm always trying to be aware when I'm distracted and then, come back and then get in the zone. At least for me, when I'm in the zone, then it's like there's nothing else. It's just the holy name. It's just me and the holy name, nothing else. So usually what happens when I'm in that zone, I don't know if this happens to you. If it doesn't, this would be my advice to do what I tell you that I do. When I'm in that zone, then it's finally like, oh, Krishna, you're here. Now I can talk to you. It's kind of like your mind's everywhere and Krishna's not really there. Do you know what I mean? You're chanting, but he's not really there. But when you're finally clear out all the clutter of your life, and it's just like Krishna has come to your house, but he's, you're doing things while he's there. And it's finally like, okay, Krishna, I'm finished. Come into my office, we can talk. So when Krishna's finally in your office and it's just you and him, at least for me, I think, oh, Krishna's here. It's just me and him. Now I can ask. Have you ever had that experience? It's like, if you haven't, you try this. Like when you finally, first thing is you have to turn your life off. It's just, you can't chant if you do. It's not, I can't say you're not chanting, but it's completely different when everything's off, because then it's just you and Krishna in the office. And like, okay, Krishna, you're here. And so now I can say, yeah. And so it's at that point when I realize, oh, Krishna's here, I can ask anything. I start meditating on praying for devotees who need help. Not always, but it's like, oh, Krishna's here and he's listening. Okay, now that I have your attention, yeah, that's it. Krishna, now that I have your attention, can I ask for this? So yes, the answer to that question is yes, but you should be totally present with Krishna and realize that he's hearing you and say, Krishna, can you give mercy to this devotee? Please give mercy to this person. That's how a Vaishnava thinks. He asks Krishna to give mercy. And so, when I do that, I say, Krishna, I'm asking for mercy for this devotee. And then sometimes I wonder, do I have the power to ask? And we're devotees, and Krishna listens to his devotees. And so we go on that basis, that Krishna, even we're neophyte devotees, Krishna listens to his devotees, so we can pray for the well-being of others. And I have seen in my life that when somebody is favored by a Vaishnava, that person advances. I have a godbrother Gunagrai Maharaj, who attracted what we call homeboys. You know what homeboys are? The homeboys are the devotees who are like, always on the edge of going to jail, basically, doing something, like those kinds of devotees. I don't know if you've ever met such devotees, but they're kind of those in and out of jail types before they were devotees, and even after, sometimes in and out. Um, and Maharaj he really liked to help those people, not just those people, but people who had more challenges in Krishna consciousness. He liked to help them. People who had more challenges in life, he liked to help them. And I always noticed that if Maharaj focused on someone and really wanted to make someone a devotee, it's like they'd become devotees. It was like mystical. It's like he wanted it more than they did, and they just became devotees. So the answer to your question is yes. If you're wanting someone to advance or wanting someone to become a devotee, and you're meditating on that and praying to Krishna and trying to help, yeah, Krishna will do something. Of course, everyone has their own free will, so you can't intervene with their free will. But still you can do your best to pray for them. And then see, ultimately it's up to Krishna what he wants to do, right? And they have their free will, and they may pull away from Krishna. Well, your prayers are working to pull them towards Krishna. They still may fight it. So, but that's not a reason not to pray for them. Okay. Radha Vinod says, can you relate this fear to anxiety, and how prayers to Krishna can alleviate this fear, the anxiety is worrying about the future? Yeah. How much of the future do we have control of? Not, well, you could say we have some control because of what we're doing now will affect our future, but do we have control of the economy? You have control, you can go to school, get a good job and so forth, but you can't control the economy, and the economy could crash and then you lose your job, right? Can we control politics, the world situation? Are we on the verge of World War III? Many people think we are. Can we control that? We can chant Hare Krishna, follow the principles. Beyond that, it's out of our control. Try to make people Krishna conscious. That's as much as we can do. So there's a little formula, and I don't know where the statistics come from, but we'll go with this formula. 10% of what's going on in your life you actually have control of, and 90% you don't. I don't know where the figure comes from, but maybe you could look at your life and think, oh, those figures are pretty close. 10% we can control, 90% we can't. So here's how this statement goes. If 90% you can't control and 10% you can, then there's nothing to worry about because you're working on the 10% and you can't control the 90%. So then there's nothing to worry about. That's interesting, isn't it? Anytime you're like really stressed out, realize that 90% of that you can't control. And that could, for some of you, maybe, I think for some of us, stress is like so normal. If we're not stressed, we're stressed. That would be stressful not to be stressed. So that's unfortunate. But I've seen people like that. Like stress is like, I guess, the way they grew up, or their biology or psychology is to be stressed. And if it's too calm, they will actually create a situation. I've seen people, this is weird, but I've seen it, that people need stress. And if the situation is peaceful, they create a situation that will cause stress somehow or other. So that's something you can reflect on. You can pray to Krishna to alleviate the fear, as we said before. Pray to Krishna to help me understand, why am I afraid? What am I afraid of? Right? I mean, if your flight is leaving an hour from now and you're 20 minutes from the airport, that's a good reason to be afraid you're going to miss the flight, right? So, we're not talking about that stuff. That's just like you created that problem yourself. And if you're prone to stress, then arrive at the airport plenty early so you won't be stressed. Just don't, if you're prone to stress, then make sure you don't create situations that cause you stress, right? You're prone to stress and you spend a lot of money and you're always in debt. Well, maybe you shouldn't spend a lot of money because you're stressed out about money. Maybe you didn't spend so much money, you wouldn't be stressed. So you do have some control, obviously, materially. There's a nice thought about the future. Like, you're in anxiety about the future. Well, why don't you live your life now so you won't be in anxiety about the future? Why don't you live your life in a way that your future will be better? Why am I anxiety about the future? Maybe it's because I'm doing things which are going to not create what I need, what I want, what I need, what's best for me, what's most inspiring for me. And therefore, I'm worried about the future because what I'm doing now may not be producing the results I want. So you do have control of your future. And a lot of times, when you take that control, your anxiety goes away because you can see that I'm creating the kind of future that will be best for me. So I'm not in anxiety about it because I'm doing the things that will create that future. This is like fundamental, very fundamental. If you worry about the future, I would say do things in a way that will produce the future you want. That's the best you can do. I mean, unless, you're in Gaza or something, obviously you'd be worried about the future. But do what's in your control. I'm worried about money. Well, maybe you have to do something to get the money you require, then you don't have about money. It's so simple. But it's so simple, but so many of us just kind of go along in life worried about the future. But really, if sometimes we're worried about the future because we're doing things that would create worry, or we're not doing things that would eliminate worry. Right? I'm worried I won't be Krishna conscious. No person who has good sadhana is worried they won't be Krishna conscious. It's the ones who have bad sadhana are worried about. Unless you like to worry, that's another thing. You'll worry about anything. You'll have $10 billion, but you'll be worried, maybe I'll lose all my money. Okay, whatever. You can worry if you want. That's your choice. But if you act in certain ways, that would eliminate your worries as far as possible. And don't act in ways that attract things into your life that will make your life difficult, because some of us do that. We act in ways and then things become difficult. And we're worried about the future because we're facing difficulties, but we're acting them, we're creating them. There's another thing, that sometimes things are not difficult. We just think they are. So that's another thing. Oh, my life is so difficult. And you hang out with that person and you realize your life is not difficult at all. You're just complicating everything. You think everything's a problem, right? I got a new app on my phone and I'm screaming and yelling at my phone and it's putting me in stress and anxiety. And I can't, it's like, do you want to get stressed out over an app? That's, So it's like, sometimes it's like that. We think, oh, Krishna doesn't love me because I can't figure out how to use this app. Then maybe you should put your glasses on, where, then you can see the buttons. Sometimes it's just foolishness. Anuradha, I love this verse. Abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender to me. I shall deliver you from all sinful actions. Do not fear. Well, I think we can safely say Krishna is happy when we don't fear, when we depend on him to the point where we trust him that everything is going to work out. That is what it means to be a devotee, and that pleases Krishna, right? Doesn't it? Like you're a devotee of Krishna, but you don't depend on him. And Krishna thinks, are you really a devotee? Because a devotee depends on me. That's what it means to be a devotee. You depend on me. So what if I'm afraid and I don't depend on Krishna, then what kind of devotee am I? Who am I a devotee of? Who do I depend on? I depend on my own mind and my own strength. Yeah, I would be afraid also if I did. Right? Want to hear an interesting story? It was kind of it was entertaining. This is like ISKCON, and this must have been like, yeah, it might have been during Prabhupada's time in the late 70s. And devotees used to distribute books, collect money at state fairs. State fairs, they have all the games and the rides and the exhibits, the animals, and you have those in your country. I don't know what you call them, but you go there with the kids and it's a million places to eat, all the rides for the kids. And they have like throw the ball in the hoop, and the hoop is like this much smaller than the ball, and you have to like get it exactly in. Throw the ball in the hoop without touching the sides like that, and then you get a big teddy bear if you win. And these people travel with big trucks, and they set up their booths and games and rides. It's a carnival. Yeah, we call it a carnival. And devotees were distributing books in that area where all these people have the games and the rides and making a lot of money. And I guess they were thinking that money could have been their money and it's going to the devotees because people only have so much money to spend, and now the devotees are getting their money. And in those days, devotees were good at raising donations because there were some parties that were not distributing books. They were just getting donations. They were getting donations from lots of people. And if you were in a very simple part of the country, most people would give you a donation. And you come back at the end of the day with a lot of money, and multiplied by 8 or 10 devotees, yeah, that created some anger on their part. And these guys, we call carnies, the ones who do this kind of work, they can be a little rough and tough, or maybe not a little, a lot rough and tough. And they surrounded the devotees with knives. And I'm not exactly sure what they told the devotees, but from what I remember of the story, they were like going to seriously injure them. That was their plan, so that they wouldn't come back. They'd get the message. In those days, all your average devotee, even Grihasta, who was many Grihastas were working full time, had shaved heads in Sikhs. But we would wear wigs because in those days, shaved head in Sikha just like would scare people. And it was kind of aligned with a lot of groups that did illegal or horrible things. So the shaved head was not like beautiful like it is today. So many men have shaved heads. It's like, you end up distributing the book and you have hair and he has a shaved head. It's like all backwards. One time, a devotee shaved his Sikha, and I said, don't shave your Sikha. It's cool. No, I have to shave it. He shaved his Sikha. We went out preaching on the campus, and he was talking to a boy who had a shaved head and Sikha. He wasn't a devotee, but he was the hairstyle. He had a shaved head and Sikha, and this devotee had grown his hair, and he's preaching to someone with a shaved head and Sikha. I said, like, okay, this is a funny photo, right? What's the world coming to? But anyway, so the devotees would wear wigs, and they were surrounded by these guys, chains, and like you could imagine, right? And the devotees started chanting the Shringa mantras, and they ripped their wigs off, and I said, hi, hi, and doing karate moves, and these guys freaked out and ran away. So that's that's an example of, well, we just have faith in Krishna and Krishna will come. There are many stories like this of devotees being protected. Um, yeah, yeah, devotees being protected. So, yeah, Bhagavad Gita says we can admit to Krishna we have trust issues. Yeah, admit you should. That's part of the process. Open up to Krishna and say, I lack trust. But here's another thing, which is like extremely important. I'm sure you're aware of this, or it will make sense when you hear about it. Lack of trust in Krishna is often not a spiritual deficit. It's not caused by a spiritual deficit, but it's caused by a material experience where we have been betrayed by someone. And for children, their parents are pretty much God to them, right? So there's a tendency to see God like your parents. And so if you had parents that you couldn't trust for whatever reason, you'll have more difficulty trusting God, unfortunately. Not all, I can't say always that happens, but it happens, right? So I think it's important to recognize that often our lack of trust in Krishna is caused by our own material experience. It's not actually that I don't trust Krishna, I don't trust anybody. And Krishna gets included with anybody, unfortunately. Right? Or another version of that, which is also detrimental, as I trust Krishna, but I don't trust devotees. That's like, I don't know if Krishna's happy with that attitude, but it often comes from bad experience, right? Or maybe you had bad experience with devotee, or you had a bad experience with Krishna Das, and now you don't trust any devotees because you have trust issues, because your trust issues come from being betrayed or very severely betrayed, or it comes from being betrayed in another life, and it's a carryover. So that's also. What I would say to that is, please don't allow any material issues to get in the way of your trust of Guru and Krishna, because that just makes your Krishna consciousness difficult. And so you'll have to work to heal those. If you heal those issues of betrayal, then it generally will heal your issues of faith with Guru and Krishna also. Because once that's healed, then there's nothing in the way. Then you can trust. A lot of times we don't trust people, but there's no reason not to trust them. They haven't done anything to warrant our lack of trust, but it's coming from being betrayed in the past. And so if we clean that up, then we have no reason not to trust. Then we can trust Krishna. But as I've often said, even if you have some lack of faith, do an experiment and just place that faith in that person or in Krishna and see what happens. And you'll be pleasantly surprised. Okay. Meditate on that for a few lifetimes. But it's an important point, because I really, it's unfortunate if something material becomes the cause of negatively impacting something as essentially spiritual as faith, because faith is like ado shraddha, it's the first thing. Everything depends on faith. I mean, look at some devotees have been betrayed by their gurus, but it never disturbed their faith in Prabhupada. And it never disturbed their faith in other people who were qualified. But sometimes they, well, I don't want to say never, because for some it did. But for those that it didn't, they understood that the mistakes of one I cannot apply to the mistakes of everyone. So Rashastali says, although I'm unqualified, I can do great things by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Yeah, we should all feel that way. And that is not It's not a break with humility, it's actually humility. Believe it or not, that is humility. Although I'm unqualified, I can do great things by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, because humility means, as opposed to false ego, humility means Krishna's doing it. False ego means I'm doing it. So as long as we understand that Krishna's doing it, there's no false ego there. So it's always humility, right? I'm the controller, Krishna's the controller. I am the enjoyer, Krishna's the controller. It's just opposites. Everything's happening by my mercy, everything's happening by Krishna's mercy. That's the material spiritual difference. It's quite simple, isn't it? Everything belongs to Krishna, everything belongs to me. So you just, those four things, taken one side, material, taken the other side, spiritual. Maybe next time when you have Krishna's attention, could you please pray for my health so we can come to Govardhan? Oh yeah, definitely. But you have to change your diet. No prayers without diet change. Make the 10% of when you can't control 90% of your focus, maybe. That's a nice one. Make it 108% of your focus. And make the 90% of your what you can't control out of your focus. Parmeshwari says, our fear will manifest in our personal life, but it also adds on to the collective fear, which will bring disaster in the world. Yeah, that's true. Because look at the pandemic, everyone thought they were going to die from basically a little. The COVID was like a flu, basically. I think more people die from the flu than COVID. Does anybody know if that's true? I think it's true, actually. If you look, well, at least when COVID started, more people were dying of the flu than COVID, and everyone was like, saying you have to do this and you have to do that, otherwise you could die. And then they were finding out that one of the main reasons people were dying is because they went on respiration in the hospital. That was one of the causes. It's just like weird. Anyway, I don't want to get into it. But there was a lot of fear, you remember? So fear spreads, right? And I had devotees telling me, you have to get the vaccine, it's just like really dangerous. And it's like, yeah, okay. Vaccine couldn't be as bad as dying, right? So, people are very much controlled by fear. So Samira is now a certified coach, and she said a certified coach aphorism, our thoughts create reality. Yeah. That's important to know when you look at your reality. Your karma also, but your thoughts are your present karma creators. Yeah. Hari Bhakti says, can we pray to Krishna for determination, or is it up to the individual only? Yes, both. You know how I often say, Hari Bhakti, you can't lay in bed and pray to Krishna, shake the bed, or Krishna, can you just topple the bed? Then I'll get up. But you can pray at night, Krishna, please give me the determination to get up when I hear the alarm. Yeah. Whatever, I would broaden the answer to this question, or broaden the question by saying, whatever you feel you need, you should pray, you can pray, and you should pray to Krishna for it. But don't pray from the mode of ignorance. Like, Krishna, I'm praying for a determination. So until you give me determination, I'll just sit here and do nothing. So the idea of prayer, as we were saying in the beginning, is that I feel like I need more determination. And Krishna, I need your help to give it to me. And Krishna says in the Gita, I give determination to the demigod worshippers. We can then therefore say he gives determination to everybody. So please give me determination. While you are trying to be determined, that's the perfect prayer. I'm trying, but I need your help. But not like I'm not trying and I'm going to pray. There always has to be some effort. Until you come to this point, and there is a point where I am too weak to try. I have no strength because what I'm trying to overcome is impossible for me. Then it's like, okay, it's like we said in the last class, then it's Draupadi, like I can't do this. I tried to hold on to my sorry, then one hand up, I can't. Now both hands up. So sometimes it's like that, but at least you tried. Draupadi tried, right? Yeah, you might say she should have just put her hands up. You know, what's the point of trying? Maybe there is something like, okay, you have a service and there's like no way you can do it and you don't even try. I mean, you try, but before you try, you go, Krishna, I'm going to try, but it's totally in your hands. So there's always the effort. Even when you're at this point where this is impossible, I can't do it. And you throw your hands up in the air, but still, you still try to some degree. And that empowers your prayer. Don't you think? Your prayer is more powerful if you're trying than if you're not. But like in addiction, you know, the 12-step program, the first principle is that this addiction has power over me. I am powerless. So sometimes it comes to that, you know, like Krishna is um, um, you know, like the only power that can save me is the power of God. But point is they go into a 12-step program, so they're doing something, right? Obviously, they're reading the book, they're doing the exercises. But that's the point. Sometimes in your life you realize, you know, and I would say Krishna consciousness is like that first. I can't be Krishna conscious without you. This is impossible, right? And that's the mood of japa. It's impossible without you. And then Kush says, Draupadi had to try to reach us women that we can't rely on men. Krishna is our only protector. Yeah, okay, ladies, kick all the men out of the house. You can't rely on them. Anyway. You're on the street. Well, you can keep sending me the checks. You're on the street. I can rely on that money. And come back once in a while to fix the house when things go wrong. Yeah, and take me to the store. No, when I first became a devotee, my mother said, you know, your father is taking care of you. And I said, well, I'll rely on Krishna. He said, and my wife said, your father is your Krishna. He provides everything. So she couldn't understand, you know, my whole life I'm dependent on him. And like, how will you live? And that was her feeling. And of course I said, you know, I'll depend on Krishna. And then my father said something interesting. When he was leaving and preparing the will, he left everything to my sister. I got a little bit, but it just kind of covered me for living and taking care of him because I wasn't working, so I was just going into debt. So basically it was, you know, not really anything significant. And then he said, my sister was not married. He says, I'm worried about her. She's not married. He said, but you, I said, you always seem to have what you need, and I don't understand how. It's just Krishna's taking care of you. And so it's like, my mother didn't believe it, but my father saw it. And he said, I don't understand how, but I'm not worried. He said, I'm not giving you anything because I'm not worried that, you know, and, you know, I'm still here, as you can see. Even though I didn't get anything, I'm still here. So Krishna has taken care, yeah. So, so we see ultimately, so you could say, another way, Kush, you could say, well, the protection that the husband gives the wife, that's Krishna. You could see Krishna through that also. Of course, some husbands are not good at protecting, so that's another thing. And now we have the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Okay, I'm going to enlighten you about the serenity prayer, Bhakti Lata. It's not the courage to change the things I cannot change, to accept, it's not the courage to change the things I can, it's the courage to change the things I should change. Because if I change everything I can, I don't know, like, that's maybe not a good idea. Just because I can change it. No, it actually means that somehow or other the translation got messed up or interpretation. It's to change the things I should change. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I should change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What about single women? No husband, only Krishna. Yeah. Wow, Krishna's protecting the husbands also. Krishna's protecting everyone. But socially, materially speaking, it's, important to have your material protection in place. And ultimate protection is that we'll go back to Godhead, right? Okay, Gormani, we're ready for you. Oh, we have a chart here.